All right, all you YouTube and knife enthusiasts. Today I'm going to make part two of my looking for the perfect folding knife video, or in my opinion, the perfect folding knife video. I'm going to talk about two different things in this video. I'm going to talk about steel, and I'm going to talk about internals. Let's talk about internals super quick, just because there's really only three types ish. Uh, there's bearings, like my Spyderco Magnitude is on bearings. There's phosphor bronze, and there's nylon or nylon, like my SC Zancudo. So very typically, the common logic is bearings are going to run smoother, they're going to feel better, which from my experience is generally true. But the nylons, I don't know. The nylons are typically gonna, in theory, gonna be, and this is my experience based off of generally the class of knife. Typically, knives that have nylon washers are more budget-friendly knives. They don't run as clean. They don't run as smooth. The nylon is surprisingly thin generally, and it is more susceptible to damage. The bearings typically run smoother, feel better, feel cleaner. Kind of the general school of thought is that bearings are going to, if dirt gets into the system, it's going to just shut down the bearing, and then you got either a fixed blade or, a blunt force tool, meaning the blade won't move. Kind of the middle of the road is the phosphor bronze. It's not going to run quite as smooth as the bearings, but it's more reliable than the bearings, but it's going to run smoother than the nylon, and it's going to be more sturdy than the nylons. That's the typical kind of school of thought on the three different washer types. Listen, I'm not going to be digging trenches with my knives. So bearings are great. They feel great. I'm not usually overly concerned with the knife getting that dirty, that it's inoperable because junk got jammed up in the bearings. That said, my general preference is the phosphor bronze. After a while, and all of these break in after a while, and it just gets smoother and cleaner and nicer, whether it's phosphor bronze or bearings. I don't know how much merit to put into, if those get dirty, it ceases to work, and it ceases to be a knife, and it ceases to function. I don't know how much merit to put into these are just going to fall apart and get shredded into a million pieces after, 97 times you open and close it, or whatever predetermined number somebody has. Um, but at the end of the day, if these are more reliable, if these feel just as good, if these are more sturdy and longer lasting and feel better, I'm going to default to phosphor bronze. So phosphor bronze is probably my number one choice for the ideal pivot system. Bearings would be a close second. Now, off of that, we'll move on to what we all really came here for. Oh, I forgot one. The steel. Let's talk steel. And I've got it right here. So let's talk steel. Before you, I have laid out the various types of steels that I have. I have probably a representation of the most common types of steel. Some are budget, some are not. So, on this Gerber, I forget the name of it. This is 7CR garbage. I use this knife a handful of times and it is fully rolled over. It's sharpenable, but this knife has so many little problems. If you ever see this knife, it is not worth what Gerber's asking for it. I beat this one into the, well, not literally into the dirt, well, to some degree. This knife is about to be retired. 12C27 garbage. I haven't used this knife to the extent that I need to, or that I want to put it into retirement. I just don't like and for not necessarily any good reason, the Sandvik steels, the 12C27, the 14C28, they're okay. Listen, depending on the price you're paying, if your Excalibur pocket knife is under $50, let your freak flag fly, do whatever you got to do. But that's not. I wouldn't expect for 12C27, for 7CR, for 14C28, for 440 stainless, or even 8CR13. I wouldn't spend more than $50 on knives with those steels. And all of these knives are at between the $25 to $50 range, with the exception of one, which I will discuss at a later time. So, 7CR is full-on garbage. 12C27, I'm not 100% sure. I haven't really put it through its paces. 440 stainless. Now, I have heard that Buck has a unique way of heat treating their steel so that they get the most out of 440 stainless. And there's different types of 440, 440A, 440, 440C. As I understand, Buck's method of treating this steel makes it actually quite a decent steel. But most of the times with knives with 440, you're going to be looking at budget knives. Now, unless this, and admittedly this is a super iconic knife, unless your dream knife is this specific iconic knife, I don't know, 440 is just not my speed. 14C28N. 28 or 27? I think it's 28. Is a budget steel. Now, I've seen one YouTube channel, I think it was Ada and Cedric Gear or something like that, where they did a test of 14C28 against VG10, against D2. And these other steels are better. They beat it. I have, from my own personal experience, used 14C28 in my line of work to cut, what are they, gypsum ceiling tiles or something like that. And I can cut about 4 ceiling tiles, and 14C28 gets borderline on dull. Like it doesn't hold its edge beyond 4 ceiling tiles. Whereas 8CR13 MOV, I did the same thing and got similar results. So I would say when it comes to the quality of the steel, I would say 14C28 and 8CR13 are very, very comparable in terms of edge retention. That said, love this knife, $50. This knife, this is one of my gripes about this knife. While the carbon fiber is beautiful, this knife has a retail price of nearly $300 with a poor budget steel. So that leaves a really sour taste in my mouth and I got this knife before I really got into like investigating the different steel qualities. All that said, these budget steels are not in my Excalibur dream folder scenario. Now we get into the higher, in my opinion, the higher end of the budget steels. D2 and VG10. VG10 is special to me mostly because I just like it. Like it's on the Delica, and I love the Delica. Do I have any good reason for that? No, not really. It's better than, your 8CR, your 14C28, your 12C27, your 7CR, 440 generally. It's got good stainless properties. It holds a decent edge. D2 has really good edge retention, but it's not great with stainless or corrosion resistance. These knives you should pay, or you can expect to pay, these steels, you can expect to spend a little bit more money for these steels than these other ones. That said, the budget steels typically aren't going to be in somebody's, holy grail knife. Some other offerings that you'll find out there fairly frequently are going to be like Oz 8, Oz 8's okay. I would say Oz 8 is probably one step below these two. Probably very similar to a 14C28. Now, all that said, I actually have heard or seen some good things about 9CR steel. So I don't have any of those knives, and I haven't experienced any of it. These are your premium steels. Now, and search for a dream knife, I'm going to say it should have premium steels. S30V, just a pretty good all-round steel. This one is kind of the low end of premium. Just a solid all-round steel. Good corrosion resistance, good edge retention, easy to sharpen, but it's less than the rest of these. 154 CM or CPM 154, they're basically the same. Again, just another good all-round steel. S35VN, just a little bit better than S30V, but again, just a good all-round steel. These are great. I would say in my quest for the perfect folder, any of these are going to be good choices. This is going to be the most commonly found offering, I think, in the S30V. You know, my Para 3, my Paramilitary 2, my Mannix, they're all S30V. My Griptilian's S30V. My Mini Grip is 20 CV. But for the most part, though, most of your premium manufactured knives are going to be, their base model is going to be in S30V. I would say I would prefer anywhere in one of these. All this said, there's several steels that I don't have any kind of offerings in. LC200N is very intriguing to me. CTS XHP is very intriguing to me. Maximit and LMAX are also very intriguing. I'm going to talk about these two. I think I'm just going to set these aside for a quick sec. M4. M4 is a steel known for its edge retention, but it's not necessarily the best with corrosion resistance. It's a fantastic steel if you're looking to do some serious, like, hard work with it, because it's got great edge retention. Probably of all my knives, the M4 is probably the best edge retention of all the ones I've got. A close second to that is 20CV. Now, 20CV, CTS 204P, and M390 are all the same steel, just from different manufacturers. Also fantastic edge retention, maybe not quite so much as the M4, but more than the S35 and those, and the CPM 154. But 20CV is going to have better corrosion resistance than M4 and better toughness. It's a better all-round blade than M4, but it doesn't have quite the edge retention. So ideally, I would like to, I guess ideally in, straight up Excalibur Holy Grail type of situation, 20CV, M390, and CTS 204P would probably be the way to go. That said, I really don't have any experience with Maximit, LMAX, LC200N. I'm actually very, very interested in LC200N because it is so corrosion resistant, but it's not as edge retentive. Its corrosion resistance is comparable to this one's edge retention. And I'm curious to to see some numbers on how its edge retention holds up over time. I think just as in terms of overall steel, all-round users between edge resistance, corrosion resistance, or edge retention, corrosion resistance, and toughness, I feel like these are probably going to be, based off of the knives that I have and that I've experienced, these are probably going to be my best two options. That said, I don't want to limit myself. If an opportunity came up in 20 CV, M390, that would be fantastic. And at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with S30V. I'm not going out and I'm not chopping down trees with this, and I'm not digging ditches with it, and I'm really doing nothing more than opening boxes, opening letters, cutting paper, cutting tape, cutting rope occasionally, or string. S30V is going to do a fine job. And trust me when I say, so anyone that's new to the knife world, I've been kind of playing around with some of my lesser expensive options. A knife like this about to become the next fodder. Just playing around with the blade, seeing what it takes to acid etch, to copper wash, to tumble, to if I wanted to drill a thumb hole or put in jimping, how hard is that to do on some of these blades? And I left it at work. I have a blade that's 14C28N that I have put a drill. I've tried to drill a hole into, and let me tell you, I have tried probably 5 or 6 times for a good minute or so a piece, and I have barely, and I'm talking, I leaned into it, and I have barely put a scratch on that blade. So, these steels that are better quality than those steels, I guarantee will hold up to, reasonable use. Even if it's the bottom end of the premium steel category, it will hold up to reasonable use. So that's about it. So far I've chosen manual knives with phosphor bronze, and preferably better than S30V steel. I'm going to leave it open to that. The next few videos I'm going to be talking again about I'll talk about the next few videos. I guess the topic is going to be probably the most important aspects of it is handle material, opening type or opening method, and lock types. I feel like these are the most important parts of it, aspects of it to me, because this is how you interact with the knife. This is how you get a grip on it. This is how you deploy it or close it. I'll follow that up with aftermarket, ergonomics, and aesthetics. The thing about ergonomics and aesthetics is that it's going to be completely subjective, as basically all this is. It's going to be totally subjective. What I find to be an attractive knife. Like, I think this is probably one of my most handsome knives, the Spyderco Magnitude. I love the look and feel of this knife. A lot of people, I am certain there's a ton of people out there that completely disagree with that. So the next things that are going to come up, dimensions, width, blade length, overall length, maybe get into stock thickness, materials, handle materials, deployment methods, lock types, aftermarket support, ergos, and aesthetics. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down below. Have a great night.